Alright, so today we're going to create this sunflower still life. Remember that a still life is a picture of objects that cannot get up and walk away on their own. They can't decide, hey, I don't want to be in this picture and walk away. So we know a flower pot with flowers, it doesn't have legs, it can't walk away. So this is a picture of a still life. And we're going to start with the flower pot, which is a paper weaving. And the way that we do that is you choose a paper for your flower pot, and you get a flower pot pattern to trace. Notice the flower pot pattern is only half, and then you're going to make a symmetrical flower pot from a folded piece of paper. So you're going to take your colored paper and you're going to fold it in half, and you need to know where the fold is, where you creased and pressed. The fold is the middle of your paper, the outer edge where it opens up like a mouth, that is not the folded edge. So this is my folded edge right here, and I'm going to take my straight edge of my flower pot, line it up with the fold very carefully, and then I'm going to trace around it. Now this is a paper pattern. This isn't a tagboard pattern, so it gets a little tricky to trace around because the paper wants to move on you and your pencil kind of slides underneath. But if you keep your pencil straight up and down and you just run it right along the edge of the flower pot, it shouldn't move too much on you. And then when you trace around it, it's hard to see there, but I do have a pencil line. You leave your paper folded and you cut that shape out very carefully and neatly. And once you cut the shape out, it should be one big symmetrical flower pot. Remember that the line of symmetry is going to be the fold line. And when you open it up, you have a line of symmetry. It's the same on both sides. So that's how you know you've done it correctly, when you open it up and it's in one piece. If you open it up and it's in two pieces, your flower pot's in two pieces, you've done something wrong. Now, you're going to fold your flower pot back up in half, and you're going to use a ruler to draw some lines on your flower pot. And you're going to draw it from the fold. And you probably only need about 6. So you're going to draw another, maybe 3 on the bottom half and then 3 on the top half. That's enough. 6 is a good amount. And you don't want these lines to go to the very edge of your flower pot. Look at the big gap that I put between the edge of my flower pot and the edge of my line. So if you look right here, here's where my lines stop, right here. And there's a big gap there between the edge. You don't want to draw these lines real close to the edge. You might accidentally cut your flower pot piece in pieces. Now you're leaving your paper folded and you're going to cut on these lines. Cut really straight and stop when your line stops. So stop right when you get to the edge of the line. So that once you cut these 6 lines, your flower pot is still in one piece. It's got little slits cut into it, but it is still in one piece. That's very important. And now you're going to go over to my bin and you're going to get about 5 or 6 strips of construction paper. And we're going to weave these into our flower pot. And there are 2 parts to a paper weaving. There's the warp, which is the flower pot part of our weaving, the part that we weave into, and then there's the weft, which are the strips that we weave into the flower pot. So now you're going to weave, and you're going to go over one, under one. So these are little strips. These orange slices are little strips. You're going to go over one, under one, over one, and lift up and go under one, over one, lift up and go over. So that you start to see blue, orange, blue, orange, blue, orange, blue. Yours might be different. You'll probably be using a different color strip, and your flower pot might be a different color. Now, when you do your next strip, you do the opposite of what you did here. So since my blue is on top of the first orange, I have to go under the first orange, lift up, go over the second orange, go over, under, over, under, over, under, over. So that when you push this green right next to the blue, it's different. See where the green is, and right next to it is orange. So your green and blue should not be touching and be side by side. The only way they'd be side by side is down here hanging. Okay, so now I'm going to do my next strip. And now I do it just like the blue. I start over on the bottom of the pot, and I go under, over, under, over, under, and then I push this right next to the green. And you want to try and make sure these strips stay nice and straight up and down. It'll make it easier on you. And now on this one, I go back like I did with the dark green. I go under the first one, over the second one, under, over, under, over. Okay, now if I push this purple right next to the green, I really don't have room for another strip. I'm out of space. So I'm just going to weave 4 strips. So I did take too many strips. These extra strips I'll put back in my bin for somebody else to use. So I've got 4 strips here. And then what I want you to do is I want you to glue the ends of the strips. So we're going to start on this side of the pot. You're going to lift up and you're going to put a dot of glue or a circle of glue, and then you're going to squish the strip down, and you're going to lift up the blue that's on top, circle of glue, and squish this down. Come down to the bottom, lift up, circle of glue, squish it down, blue. Okay. Notice I have not glued purple or green because they're on the other side. So I'm going to now flip over my flower pot, and now I'm going to do my purple and green. So I'm going to lift up my green and do circle of glue and squish it down. Circle of glue for the purple, squish it down, or magenta, green, magenta. So now the ends of these strips are glued on both sides of my flower pot. But it doesn't look very pretty, does it? Those strips really hang off. So I want you to then, after you've glued, take your scissors and trim right next to the edge of your flower pot so that you have a nice straight edge. And you need to do that at the top as well. It's hard to not cut the orange, the flower pot, but do your best. So now you have a nice, beautiful flower pot. And this is probably all you're going to do the first day. So then on the back of your flower pot, you need to write your name and the day you have art. And then we're going to put this on the drying rack to dry. And the next day you have art, you're going to get yourself a big blue piece of paper. When you get your big blue piece of paper, zoom out, you're going to write your name, the day you have art, flip it over, and now when I pass back your flower pot to you, you're going to put glue on the side where you see your name. And you're not going to put glue across the top part of your flower pot. You're going to do the sides of your flower pot. A frame of glue just on the 3 sides of your flower pot, just like this. Don't put glue across the top. That'll be a big mistake. So these 3 sides, a frame of glue, flip it over and move the flower pot near the bottom of your blue paper. It doesn't have to rest on the bottom. And then just squish down those 3 sides. And then you're going to get 3 stems. And you can choose different colored greens. I have dark green and light green, so you can do 2 dark green and 1 light green, or you can do 2 light greens and 1 dark green. You might not even need all these, I'm thinking. And you're going to glue these stems on. Now, when I glue my stem on, since I didn't glue the top of my flower pot, it'll slide down behind my flower pot. But this stem is way too long. I can't put flowers up there, so I need to trim this down. And I'm going to trim it right about there. And now I'm going to put a line of glue where my stem is, and I'm going to glue that down. And then these green ones here, I think I only need 2 green strips because I think I'm going to cut this in half. So this extra green that I took, I don't need. So maybe when you go get your green strips, you just need 1 green, 1 dark green, and 1 light green. So I'm going to put a line of glue on here and glue 1 stem over here and a line of glue here. Slide the stem behind the flower pot and glue it over here. And there's nothing that says the stems have to be straight up. Then you're going to get a dark green paper and a light green paper, and you're going to trace some leaf shapes and cut those out. And to save you a step, just trace your leaf shape on the light green, and then we'll stack the dark green on there. So I'm going to take my light green, I'm going to trace 2 leaves on this light green paper. And then I'm going to put the dark green behind it, stack it nice and neat, and I'm going to cut them out at the same time. And when I cut on this light green, I'm going to make sure that I cut that pencil line off there so I don't have the pencil line on my light green leaf. So I cut that off. I cut right inside that pencil line. So I need to restack this before I cut my second set of leaves. And now you're going to add your leaves to your stems. And there's nothing that says light green leaves have to go in a light green stem and dark green have to go in a dark green. It's really your preference, whatever you want to add. Okay, now you're ready to do the petals of your sunflowers, the yellow part to your sunflower. So you're going to get a yellow piece of paper and you're going to use that same leaf pattern to make the petals of your sunflower. So you're going to take your yellow paper, save some time, fold that yellow in half, and then I want you to trace as many of these leaf shapes as you can fit on the yellow without touching. So I won't trace another one right here where it touches. I'm going to leave a little bit of space and trace around it again. You need a lot of petals for your flowers, so you want to put these close together without overlapping so you can get as many petals out of the yellow as possible. And by folding your paper, you're saving yourself a couple of cuts because you won't have to cut. You can cut 2 out at the same time, so that saves you a little bit. So I'm leaving my paper folded. None of these petals touch each other or overlap, and now I'm going to carefully cut these out, and I'm going to try to make sure that I cut the pencil off of the yellow flower. So I cut right inside the pencil line, nice and neat, so that you can't see the pencil line when I glue these down. Then you're going to recycle your scraps and you're going to start with your glue and you're going to put a circle of glue right along the top of the stem, and that's a pretty big circle. It's about the size of a nickel. And then take your petals and glue them around that circle. And make sure you squish them down so that they squish into the glue and they don't fall off later. And it's okay if you have a little bit of a glue mess squirting out the sides of the leaves. Okay, so now I'm going to do the next. Now this flower is going to overlap this flower, which creates the illusion of space. It looks like something's in front of something else, and that always looks really nice. The illusion of space, one way artists create their 2D, their flat drawing to make it look 3D, is by having things overlap. So now I have this flower overlapping that flower. And now I have one flower left to do. Uh-oh, and I only have 2 petals left. So I'm gonna have to go and get some more yellow paper. And that's okay if you need more yellow. Let's see if I can, here we go. So I'm gonna get some more yellow paper. Maybe this time I don't need a full sheet. So I'm gonna fold this in half, open it back up, and only take a half a sheet because I don't need a full sheet of petals. And then to save time again, I'm going to fold this half sheet in half and see about fitting some more leaves, some more petals, flower petals on here. Let's see if I can fit. Probably only need 2 more, but I'll go ahead and trace a third just in case I need it. So I think what I'll do is I'll cut some yellow sheets in half so that if you do need a little bit more yellow, I'll have that ready for you. So you won't have to fold one of those big sheets in half and make a half sheet for yourself. I'll cut some for you so that'll be ready. Okay, and now I just need to finish by adding these petals to this last flower. All right, and now I do have a little bit of, I just have some petals that are kind of left over, but that's okay. All right, so I have 2 or 3 left over. Maybe if you have some petals left over, you could give them to a friend, share with a friend. All right, and then we just need to add the centers of our sunflower. So you're gonna start with a brown piece of paper for that, and you're gonna get yourself a circle pattern. And I want you to take the brown paper and fold it in half, make your life easy. Trace one circle, cut it out. So I'm cutting out 2 circles at the same time. And then open up your scrap and you'll have room for your 3rd circle because you need 3, 1 for each flower, and you have 3 flowers. I want to see smooth cutting, so when you cut your circle out, it should still look like a circle. It shouldn't have any straight edges or pointy corners. So turn your paper as you cut and cut slow. All right, and then a frame of glue. This goes right in the middle of each of your sunflowers. Frame of glue and a frame of glue. Sunflowers have really big centers because they grow sunflower seeds on there. So the last fun part of this assignment is we're going to actually use real sunflower seeds to create the centers of our sunflower. And it's kind of like creating a little mosaic where you take little bits of something and you put them together side by side and glue them together to make an interesting artwork. So you're going to get a small amount of sunflowers. I'll have them in a little cup for you. And you're going to start with each center of your flower. You're going to start with one and work your way around. The first thing you're going to do is draw a frame of glue around the inside of the circle. Nice thick bead of glue. And then you're going to take your sunflower seeds and you're going to press them into the glue. Now if you don't have a thick bead of glue, the sunflower seeds won't want to stick. So you've got to be generous with your glue and get them to stick in there. And please, please, please don't make the mistake of trying to eat these sunflower seeds. Lots of first graders and kindergartners have touched them, and we've dropped them on the floor and put them back in the cup. And so they have lots of glue. Some even have glue on them. A lot of them have dirt. So don't try and eat them. And then you're going to do another line or thick bead of glue around the outer edge. And then one more, just a little tiny dot of glue in the middle. You can add a couple right there in the middle. Okay. So now you're going to do your next one. Just don't jump ahead and try and do all your glue. Do 3 rows of glue. Do one at a time. Because by the time you get to the center, if you do all the glue at the same time, the glue might start to dry and then it won't grab those sunflower seeds. And you're going to keep doing this until you fill this flower and the last flower. And when you're finished, it will look a little bit something like this. And on my finished example here, the centers of my flower are a little smaller, so I used less sunflower seeds. So you get a bigger middle, so you get to do more sunflower seeds. Good job. Thanks. Bye.